So today we are talking all about money movement and kind of the best practices and practice management on how to handle that within your office and anything to adjust or any sort of insights you can make from the procedure that you implement. And there is a white paper that we put together to complement this exact topic. So I'll make sure to put that into the chat as well. So you have that. I really love the white paper because there are some general templates in there as well. There is a lot of research in that template as well. You'll find things like how frequently clients prefer to be contacted, what method clients prefer to be contacted by. So definitely make sure you download that to kind of supplement with today. But I'm so happy to be joined by Louis today. I'll give him a minute to introduce himself and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Hi everyone, Nora, obviously thank you so much for having me here. This topic is so near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure we're going to cover it in immense detail and nerdiness as I like to do. Hi everyone, my name is Louis. I'm the product owner and co-founder here at Hubly. I've been working on money movement workflows with hundreds of advisory firms for over 6, coming up on 7 years now. And so excited to do a refresh on this topic and more importantly, record a webinar today about how do I think about money movement workflows in advisory businesses. And hopefully some of you can take some of those best practices back to your firm today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I know we're very visual, so we'll do a lot of jumping into the system. But Louis, what do you think about verbal directions about something so big like a money movement or something that's kind of unlogged or just a scattered intake of it?
Yeah, so when I think about money movement workflows and having had this conversation with hundreds of firms, money movement workflows, I sincerely believe, are the most important workflows in an advisory firm because it's ultimately how you make money. Now, when I say that when you make money, the large majority of advisory firms are still charging fees based on AUM. And so something as simple as a transfer or an account opening process is literally time to money. And so I love thinking about businesses and thinking about what are the core workflows that will ultimately generate revenue for my business. Generally speaking, in the advisory business, your money movement workflows are that. And so, if it takes you 30 days, for example, to execute an account opening process or longer to do a transfer, or sometimes I see, money movement workflows where it took months to do a contribution for a client, you're legitimately leaving money on the table because that money is not getting into wherever you custodian your client's assets, which means you are actually making less money as a advisory firm business owner.
Yeah, definitely. And I've even seen offices leverage platforms like Plan where it'll even discover accounts that advisor or clients didn't even know about either. And then advisors and their firms can kind of get started on getting that movement done as well.
It's funny, like, I sincerely believe this is the most crucial and core important workflows in your advisory firm, period. I don't think there's any negotiating that truth. Now, it hurts me when I speak to advisory firms. I'm like, how do you keep track of your money movement workflows and or opportunities, which you're mentioning? 99% of the time, the answer is a spreadsheet. And a lot of advisory firms have screen shared and showed me their spreadsheet. I now call it the spreadsheet from hell because that is legitimately what it looks like. They're using this very convoluted spreadsheet to track not only their most important workflows, but it is also likely the most important workflows for your clients because it involves their money. And then it is also the most compliantly important workflows to track as well. And so it's just that work is generally happening in the spreadsheet is just really sad. And I want to see a transition away from that and just have advisors and their operations teams maniacally focus on how do we make them more efficient, more streamlined, automate audit tracking, streamline collaboration instead of running sticky notes back and forth with, hey, we need to open up this $1 million account. I have literally seen that sticky note on a screen share with clients before, with advisory firms before. We need to move away from that to a better way to manage and scale advisory businesses, because this is the lifeblood of your business, your money movement workflows.
Yeah, definitely. And there's even that more dangerous place it could be, which is everyone's head, right? And kind of scattered through emails or conversations in the office. So it definitely is important to dedicate that front end work and make sure that it is kind of ready to go and even audited internally, blueprint that client experience on how it would be on their end. And we're so used to, living in this digital age where everything's on demand and instant. So it is important to kind of start to go toward that as well.
Yeah. The other thing I'll mention about money movements that I think is an important concept to bring to your team and to have internally is there's your most important workflows, which as like these need to be executed perfectly. Money movements are generally those. And then the other part of your workflows are high volume workflows. And so, for example, client review meetings could be a high volume workflow. Money movement is a high volume workflow, right? Generally speaking, fast growing advisory firms are opening up a high volume number of accounts, doing a high volume of transfers, trades, contributions, distributions, etc. And so looking at what is your most valuable workflow and then what are your most high volume workflows. I'll give you another example. Helping with let's say there's a death of a client and helping with the estate planning process of that is a very important workflow. It involves a deep connection with your client in very sensitive topic areas, but it's relatively low volume, right? And so I'm a big advocate for really optimizing your high impact, high value workflows and your high volume ones, and money movement touches both of those categories.
Great point. Great point. Do you want to jump into the system and show what exists and how to kind of enhance it from there, or do you want me to jump in?
Yeah, no, so I will share screen. I prepared a little nerdy um, walkthrough of really just doing a deep dive of how I've seen the best advisory firms, our super users, fast growing advisory firms at Hubly leverage our workflow tooling to really build one of the best workflow management systems I've seen in the advisory market. And so I'm actually going to share screen and show you what a day in the life looks like for those super users to really help you imagine a different way to manage your money movement workflows. So with that being said,
I
so we have,
love the build up. That's so exciting that we get to watch this.
yeah, so we'll do a drum roll
Yeah.
and we're going to share here.
All
Okay.
right. I see Hubly right now, and the first one I see is open account.
Perfect. So I see is a lot of existing Hubly customers on the call. Hi, everyone. Hi, Grant. Hi, Andrew. I also see there's some non-Hubly customers. So I'm just going to give a quick, brief introduction to Hubly as I walk through this. So little orientation on Hubly here. Each of these columns is what we call a workflow. So you have your account opening workflow, your transfer workflow, your contribution workflow, your distribution workflow, your rollover workflow, etc. This is what I like to call your money movement dashboard. Instead of using your spreadsheet from hell, you're going to actually use your Hubly money movement dashboard. Each of these clients or cards, as you can see here, which are really easy to move around, is a client that is currently in that particular workflow. So for example, we're currently opening up an account for Betty, Aaron, and Amanda. We're doing a transfer for William and Amanda. We're doing a distribution for Devin, for example. Right from your dashboard, you can see what progress each individual client is making, and more importantly, who on your team is actually assigned to working on the next task. Little introduction, feel free to throw questions in the chat throughout this. I will try to address them as I go. Now, how do you actually work through a workflow in Hubly is what I'll show next. And so instead of, for example, what happens in most advisory firms today, you're either adding a new row to a spreadsheet saying, hey, we need to open up our account, or you're generally seeing an email from an advisor saying, hey, we need to open up the account. Imagine instead you would just be able to throw, I like to say, a client into the workflow. We integrate directly with Wealthbox and Redtail CRMs. And so I can simply go and add, for example, William Smith into the open account workflow. The workflow now automatically delegated a task here to Alex, who is the advisor for William, to document the account opening details. What Alex would do in this case, and I'll go back up to Debbie here just because the reminder is overdue, Alex can go ahead and actually click on Betty, and this is going to open up the client profile in Hubly. This is where we sync in all of your CRM data. I currently have a Redtail demo open. Wealthbox works exactly the same way, except you have a blue button here instead of a red button. Quick overview here of the client card. If you've ever used tools like Trello, Asana, Monday.com, think of this as a project card, but instead it's for your client. Top left here, you can see your household information. Top right here, you can see your meeting data right from your CRM, contact information for that client, important client dates. And at the bottom here, you can see your notes and also tags all synced in from your CRM. In the middle here, you can see the actual workflow. So the first step here is for Alex to document the account opening details. You can see here there's some what we call conditional tasks in Hubly. So if it's a traditional IRA account, inherited RA, we might want to do the beneficiary details as well for that. And so what we would do is we'd go ahead and complete this task. In Hubly, you can build structured data forms where you can collect data. This will come back around when I talk a little bit more about audit reporting in a couple of minutes from now. These are all customizable. This is our template. It's very robust. So is this an existing client? Let's say no. The account type is, let's say, traditional. Funding method is transfer. Nora, trick question for you. What's going to happen because I selected the transfer here?
An additional field will pop up.
It's actually going to activate the transfer workflow.
Oh,
and
nice.
So
there we
in
go.
Hubly, you can set up what's commonly known as if this, then that functionality. So you can set up workflow conditions. So if it's a transfer, then I want to activate the transfer workflow. If I, for example, select rollover here, it would activate the rollover workflow.
And I think that isn't emphasized enough. A workflow triggers another workflow. That is something I've heard been asked for forever in the industry, and the way that it addresses that is so helpful. It's kind of that string on your finger that's like, you need to do this. It does that for you. So helpful.
And it's really easy to set up. It's I like to say no code. You click two buttons and your condition is set up. We'll enter a couple of other data fields here. Amount, for example, let's say it's a $10 million account. Custodian is Schwab, and standing instructions are still needed. And I can go ahead and save the changes.
And that form comes default, and you mentioned you can customize it. Have you seen any specific things that offices will add to that form that you find really helpful?
There's a lot you can add to that form, and people
Okay.
have gone absolutely crazy. I think there's a fine line between, a workflow that is complicated enough so it's useful yet not too simple, and then there's a fine line there that needs to be met. The standard form is good. We normally recommend starting with that, but every team has their little unique thing that they like to collect. I'll give you a very specific example. There is a firm that they do a lot of annuities as part of the account opening process. And so they want to know, are we actually starting the annuity workflow? And at that step in their process. And so there's a yes, no, and then that will trigger the annuity workflow, for example.
That's nice though. I like that, thinking ahead and building that in.
Yeah, exactly. I do apologize if the audience hears little cute barks. I just got a little puppy, and so it should be
Oh,
well.
we can't be mad at that. We can't be mad at that.
If you stay to the end of the webinar, I'll show you her. So incentive to stay. Continuing on here, so documenting the account details, when the form is completed, that data is stored in the client profile for compliance purposes. And there's also reporting options available on this, which I'll show you in a second. The other thing you'll notice is that the obtain beneficiary details task has now been assigned to your client service team member, for example, because that condition for a traditional IRA was met. In addition, if we close this workflow here, you'll see that Betty has been added into the transfer workflow. She'll be added, sorry, if we look here, I was like, where is she? If we scroll down here, you'll see that the condition for rollover was not met, but the condition for transfer has also not been met because Betty has to actually complete this workflow. So if I go ahead here and complete this workflow, now Betty will move into the transfer workflow. And so you can set up different conditions that there's and conditions. So in this case, both the transfer had to be met and the workflow had to be completed. And so just even nerdier example of the same point that Nora and I were making earlier. So
Yeah.
that's the basic concept of the money movement dashboard and the importance of all your different workflows. I just demoed the open account. Transfers, contributions, distributions work all the same way. You might have a different data form with less fields, but you can have all of these workflows that trigger one another and really keep you on top of who's working on what, and more importantly, how this work is being executed. I'm going to switch topics here a little bit and actually take us up one level higher. Let's assume you're using Hubly for all your money movement workflows. Now, instead of once again using a spreadsheet, you instead have access to Hubly's Insights functionality, which is our reporting suite, and we automatically provide you with a lot of reporting data on your account, your money movement workflows. So let's go look at what those are. The first dashboard, which I absolutely love, is it thinks about the concept of active workflows. And so in this firm, we have 11 active workflows, and you can see I've applied a filter here for the money movement workflows. So you can set up different types of filters, which makes it really easy if you're the business owner or the head of operations at a firm and you want to know what is the status of all of our open money movement requests from clients. You can pull up that dashboard with one click of a button. In this case, this firm, or in this demo hub, we have 11 active workflows. Here you can see we automatically track what we call workflow aging. And so you as the business owner or head of operations at a firm, you ideally don't want workflows to be really aged because that means work did not get done for a client. And so here we have 9 workflows under 30 days old, but we have 2 workflows that are for money movement that are over 60 days old. Now you can drill into this and you can see here, okay, we had a rollover request and a contribution request from Beatrice and Chad, and these have almost been open for 100 days. That generally is right now it just gets lost in that spreadsheet and nobody knows. We make sure that any aged workflows are surfaced to you and your team to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks for the clients. And this, especially the contribution that's been open for 99 days, like that's just money that's being left on the table revenue generation wise for your business. So aged workflows are important, and Hubly does this automatically, assuming you use our workflows. Here at the bottom here, you can see some more data. We timestamp every workflow, and we then automatically track all of how long they've been open for. Switching gears here, so there's the concept of active workflows for money movement, and then there's your completed workflow data. So how many accounts have I potentially opened, or how many transfers have I potentially done? Switching gears here to one of our other reports is what we call your workflow completion history. And so this firm, or example firm here, has completed 12 money movement workflows. On average, it takes 28 days for us to complete those workflows. And then if you scroll down here, you can once again get access to that, all of that data, when the workflow was created, when it was completed, by who, and once again, it provides you with the workflow name. And so if you're like, how long on average is our open account process taking? I can actually add another filter here. And refresh it. So on average, it takes us 8.63 days to open up an account. This is a really good firm, by the way, very fast. Obviously, this is demo data, but this is the type of information you're going to have at your fingertips just by simply using Hubly's workflows. And now you can set targets or goals for your team. Let's say your average account opening process takes 2 months. Hey, what if we get that down to 30 days? And this can be a way you measure performance, how you incentivize your team. It's going to help them start thinking in a workflow way and ultimately help you as the business owner monitor performance of your team automatically.
Yeah, I think the continuous improvement aspect is great, but then also just meeting client expectations of communication, where now you're even able to communicate like, hey, I know you want us to open this account. Typically, it's going to take about 8 days before it's all completed, and then you're not leaving them lingering, wondering when is this going to happen? And did I miss an email? Was I supposed to get a signature? You're able to include that data in that communication.
Yeah. So last but not least, Nora, I know I was a little mean on spreadsheets earlier, but I'm also a business owner and have been before. Spreadsheets are incredibly useful, and especially for advisors and their teams, they are spreadsheet nerds for the most part, and so um, you can export all of this data and put it into a spreadsheet. And so I'm going to show you how you can actually do that in Hubly, and we've made it really simple. We have one more really fun report, which is what we call your forms report. So Nora, if you remember that form that I completed for the new account opening process where we collected all of this data, all of that data can be exported. And so what I've done here, I've added a couple of filters where I can select specific workflow templates. So I've selected the contribution and open account workflow, for example. Now I want to know how many of these have we completed in the last 365 days. And I specifically care about the amount, which we collect there is the amount of the account opening request or the contribution, maybe to do a calculation of how many new assets have we brought in, etc. You can export this data, download it via CSV, which I'm sure all of you know how to do that. And what some of our really fast growing firms are doing is because they have access to now all of this very structured data, they can export it and build any crazy spreadsheet you possibly want. And I'll just give you an example. I actually built this, about 5 minutes before the webinar here, just to show you how easy it is. So I went, download the data, I then added it into an Excel sheet. As you can see here, here's the exported data directly from Hubly. And I just did a simple sum if on the field value amount. And here I can see we've opened up accounts in the last 365 days valued at $11 million. We've done 6 million of transfers and 5 million of contributions, for example. And so what I love about Hubly and what the fast growing firms are doing is, yes, they're using it for workflows. Yes, there's automatically tracking these things, but it doesn't necessarily 100% eliminate your spreadsheet. But you can get access to all the data that you previously had in your spreadsheet. It's at your fingertips. You can export it whenever you want, and you can build your beautiful graphs that you possibly, the ones that you imagine for your business. And so Hubly gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you the ability to track all of your workflows automatically, assign work to your team, make sure audit compliance and tracking is done automatically, and you can then export all of that structured data and build your spreadsheet from heaven instead.
Yeah, that's great. And how often do you see offices like maybe printing this out and including it in their monthly meetings, just to kind of talk about it during the meeting time?
It depends on the firm. Generally speaking, you should be looking at your core business metrics on at likely a weekly or a monthly basis, right? If you really want to start dialing in your growth in your firm. And so, it's what if you've built the Summit formulas in Excel, right? You're just exporting data into columns, and then everything should happen automatically. So relatively quick and easy to do. I'd say most folks are doing it on a monthly basis just to understand the performance of their business, but whatever makes sense and really depends on the volume. We have an advisory firm down in Florida. He does this daily. Because he has such a high volume business. He's onboarding, 40, 50 new accounts a month, right? And so he wants to know how things are really progressing on a daily basis. And he's built the spreadsheet that allows him to do that, and he just feeds the Hubly data into it.
Really great. I love that.
Yeah.
On that page where you did show the number of days that the workflow is old, how often or what's your best practice to kind of reassess the process when maybe this is a one-off situation that's taking a long time, or it's actually a trend and you need to kind of go in and do some digging?
It's a great question. Yeah, I generally believe that workflow should likely be improved every single quarter, or that's what the best advisory firms that we work with are doing. Is they're reassessing their workflows on a quarterly basis. There are definitely one-off case scenarios that the client might have just left, or there was an employee who was assigned a workflow and then no one new picked it up, right? But Hubly gives you quick access to that information. You can really quickly, I'll show you here, I can go ahead and open up that client workflow and drill into this specific case, right? I can see that Alex on the team might have completed his task, but Amanda or Sarah, whoever was assigned next, didn't. Oh, it's like, okay, because Sarah resigned, right? You can get all that information very quickly and easily, and then just eliminate that from your calculations as in terms of what's happening for different workflows.
Okay, great. And this also has the capability to put ahead, maybe there's grandparents expecting a new grandchild, they want to open a 529 in X amount of months. Do you see that being done as well?
Yeah, 529 account opening is a very common one. Sometimes there's a separate workflow for it, or you just use the account opening workflow,
Oh,
which I showed earlier. And you would just add, if I open up William Smith here, I might even actually have that is your account type. Yeah, there's not a 529 one here, but you could definitely do that as well.
maybe add that one in.
Yeah.
Really
Maybe
nice.
I can, Nora, for that be helpful, just how quickly it is to customize these forms.
Yeah,
So if you want to edit or change a workflow, you go into the workflow menu here, you click edit workflow. Here you can see is the actual workflow build. You don't have to go to some other crazy screen like they make you do in your CRM. Here I can see the actual details. And so let's say I want to add another account type. I can just go ahead and edit the field, and I can add 529, click add, and save. And now 529 is part of that form. I'll also maybe quickly show while I'm here is here you can see what we call your next workflow conditions, where one workflow activates another. And so in this case, when funding method is equal to transfer and this workflow is complete, I want to activate the transfer workflow. Let's say I want to get rid of one of those conditions. I can go ahead and edit the condition. And let's say I want to get rid of this and condition. I can just quickly get rid of it. And I'm like, actually, I want to add that back in. This workflow is complete. Like
yeah.
2 clicks button to set up your conditions.
Yeah, that
And there,
is great. You could even add relationship builder type workflows like, and, send a gift or
yeah,
something like that.
like if account amount is greater than $1 million, right? Like send the client some golf clubs or whatever it may be, or sorry, $1 million, I should say, not 1,000, a million. Then you can do fun things like that. Yes.
Yeah, maybe some customized golf shoes.
Yeah. I don't know at what asset minimum you start getting those, but
Yeah, exactly. Um, I know it's great to be as communicative as possible. Let's talk about internal communication. What type of comments and how frequently do you suggest adding those in to the workflow?
it totally depends. I see comments or notes as large part of replacement for back and forth email and or phone calls or messages between your team, right? And
Mhm.
so comments should be added, generally speaking, when there is a need to communicate with another team member in relation to the workflow. This gets a little nerdy, Nora, but I'm a strong believer in context based communication, right? And so, how do you keep the communication about a specific subject matter in context to that subject matter? And
Yeah,
so, when you're opening up an account for Aaron, all the communication around the account opening for Aaron should happen in the account opening workflow. You shouldn't take that out and send an email because that email is now relatively useless because it's not within the context of the work that you're doing for the client. And so, as much or as little as communication is required for a specific workflow should happen in the context of that workflow. And so, maybe I'll just dive into that a little deeper. In Hubly, you can add comments to a specific task. So, hey, I prepared the paperwork and XYZ happened. All of this syncs in back with your CRM. We are at the tail end of improving this functionality. In the coming weeks, you'll hear more, but you'll be able to add multiple comments to a task. So you'll also be able to add comments to a workflow. And so we're continually make improvement for context-based communication as much as possible in the platform and product.
really great. I love that because it's, everything's everywhere and it kind of makes it hard to digest everything when it's done that way. So having everything concisely in one place, one location, and even preventing phone calls, if you put in there that you submitted it for signature, you followed up, but they forgot about it, commenting all of that is maybe going to prevent a phone call from somebody else calling and saying, what is the holdup here?
Exactly.
Really great. And for like the email templates, I know I teased about some of those being included in the white paper. Do you see any good spots for those here or where they could be or how that helps the team move quickly?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna go and I'll go into the workflow builder here. So uh, less common in your money movement workflows, sometimes in your contribution or distribution to get, verifications from clients that they want to do this. But any task can have an associated email template that your team can use. This is very common for more of your client onboarding processes, but you can leverage the same functionality throughout your money movement processes as well.
Really nice. And that can even help with training, throwing it in there just for references for people joining the team in the future could be really helpful. And how do you see offices addressing the spots where it could be the client causing the delay or how that could be brought to their attention, maybe a signature date, things like that?
So happy you brought that up. So, for example, here's a task that says follow up on signature, right? So it's technically the blocker to that is likely going to be the client not signing. And so in Hubly, you can mark if a task is the responsibility of a client. And so you can see where where are all my workflows that are blocked by a client, for example. And you simply do that by, at the workflow level, when you build it, you mark this task as being a client's responsibility. And guess what? We have a report for that. You're going to go to task view here, and you can then filter for all of your tasks for where workflow status is complete and task is not completed. You can basically filter for all of your tasks where the client is responsible. And so here are all of you have 33 tasks that are likely blocked by a client. And this large part becomes your follow-up list as well for the team to be aware of. You can obviously filter by overdue reminders, or was due last week, etc. You can drill in a little bit more, but that's a great use of our workflow task tracking.
Okay, great. And these workflows, once they're completed, you can have it be sent back to your CRM.
Correct.
Really nice. We did have a question come in saying, will there be some type of physical copy of how we can do reports or building workflows?
Not sure if I 100% understand the question, and so maybe I'll try to answer it. And Vanya, you can let me know if I answered it right or not. Is so the physical copy is that we have our full workflow templates library. So if you need the money movement workflows, you can
Yeah.
access them at Hubly. If you're not a Hubly customer, you can sign up for a trial and you can play around with our workflows and see how we built them. In terms of the reports, all of these reports are pre-built. You don't have to build them or anything from scratch. We also have on our help center, which you can access directly here, or you can just find that on our website, is you can search for help. So if you want to look at, for example, the insights functionality, you can quickly search for the insight dashboards. And we do insights forms, for example. There's an Insight Dashboard Forms report. If you want to learn how to use that, here's the little video and how to use it, some of the use cases that other folks are using it. So those are all resources available to you today already.
Really nice. And I do want to mention there is a free 30-day trial with Hubly as well. If you want to try it out, myhubly.com. And we're happy to jump on the phone and talk about your firm, your office, and really drill down how it can add value to your firm. And I want to know another best practice. Are you suggesting views, isolating it, all money movement items as a specific view?
It depends, I would say. Generally, views are more important for larger teams. So
Okay.
let's say you're on a team with 6 advisors. You might have lots of account opening, transfer, contribution, distribution activity. Generally speaking, advisors only really care about their money movement workflows. And so what you can do is, let's say, for example, I want to create a dashboard for where everything is just in relation to Alex, the advisor. You can create a view of your saved money movement requests for a specific user, for
Mm-hmm.
example. And so you can save those filters. Or what you can do, Nora, is, let's say, for example, you're the business owner or the operations manager, and you really want to, see all of your money movement workflows for your high AUM clients, your A clients. You can then add a filter for your based on your CRM tags. And so, okay, we have a distribution for Devin. I want to, just as an example, I want to really see all of our money movement requests for our A clients or our high net worth clients. You can create different filters like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the color coordinating can help where, you're able to let people know priority.
Yeah.
All right. And I know you answered this. Allison is just
Any other
reconfirming.
questions?
Yeah, Allison's reconfirming that these workflows available as templates or are they built from scratch by each firm?
The ones that I demoed today are in the templates library. Any user can access them today.
Yep. And I love how it's like one thought, one process. It's not putting a million different things into one workflow. It's getting it all done to completion and just physically seeing all the things entailed in one process is really just enlightening to, how are we doing this before just telling each other what to do or remembering in our head.
Yeah, awesome.
Really great. So I do want to remind everyone that there is a money movement white paper that we did put together. I'll put that in the chat again as well, but it's a really nice download that will just lay out kind of everything that we talked about today. There's some templates in there, some research that's in there as well that you might find helpful. And a big aspect of this whole entire process that we really outline in that paper is the gathering of the information. So if you guys could nail that down, whether this is something that comes up during the meeting or a client calls in and asks for this request, putting all of the information into that form of all of the information that you need to move forward is what we really found when we were making that white paper is what really prevents those NIGOs and those delays down the line. All right. But otherwise, we want to thank everyone so much for your time today. If you have any follow-up questions, Louis, where can people reach out or if they want to get started?
So two things. One, best way to get started with Hubly is to either schedule a demo on our website. You can find the get a demo button, or sign up for a free trial and just schedule a workflow consultation with our team. And then the second piece I will mention, Nora, is I did promise everyone who stayed to the end here they'll be able to see my puppy. So I still got to do that part.
Yes, yes. If you want to go ahead and go, um,
Her quick.
yeah, grab her. That would be perfect. Everyone will be excited for that. And don't forget the consultations are available even if you maybe saw a few things today and want to pick them up and expand on them. Consultations are available for that as well. Oh, hi. So cute. Oh, and she gave us a yawn. What's her name?
Her name is Nala from The Lion King.
So ferocious. Is she meant to
Thank
be
you
a
for
queen?
everyone.
Hi, Nala. So cute. Are you potty training and all that right now?
Yeah, we're doing potty training, crate training, all the good things. So, um, yeah, she's back to sleep now, though. I did wake her up. So anyway, glad everyone stayed and got to see her at the end here.
Yeah, she did give us a yawn, like, why did you wake me up? But
Yeah,
if you give me a treat, I'll be happy. Yeah, thank you so much for showing us. I know everyone threw some little hearts in the chat, in the reactions, and some thumbs up. So we really enjoyed that. Thank you, Louie.
welcome.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for your time today. Have a great rest of the day. Have a great upcoming weekend, and we look forward to talking to you all soon.